When we talk about carbohydrates, are probably the most important nutrient because they give us the most amount of energy. They are our main source of energy. Now, what I mean when I say that they're the main source of energy, they're the main source of energy in the human body because we're able to break them down very quickly. If you're a competitive athlete, a lot of times, the night before a big competition or a couple days before a big competition, you'll be encouraged to eat things like pasta. Okay, and that's because it gives you quick burning energy. Pasta is a complex carbohydrate that you can break down relatively quickly. And it can give you a tremendous amount of energy that your body has evolved to actually be able to break down very quickly. So about 55 to 60% of the energy you actually burn, okay, doing day-to-day things, comes from carbohydrates. Now, carbohydrates are broken down into three groups, okay? We've got our mono. We've got our di, and we've got our poly. Now, those are prefixes that mean things. Okay, when we talk about carbohydrates, we're talking about saccharides. A saccharide is sugar. Okay, it is glucose in its simplest form. So a monosaccharide is one glucose molecule. Now, a glucose molecule is very interesting because it is a molecule that has 6 carbons. Okay, and they are ring-shaped. And if you look at the first page of carbohydrates in your iBook, you'll notice that there's an image there with 2 single monohydrates, fructose, glucose, and there's galactose there. And those are our main monosaccharides. And they can actually bond together to form disaccharides. Disaccharides, so mono means 1, di means 2, and polysaccharides means many individual glucoses. Okay? So when we talk about these, your body is only capable of absorbing. And we're going to get, when we finish nutrition, we're going into the digestive system. And we're going to talk about nutrient absorption. And when your body actually starts to absorb carbohydrates from the food you eat, it can only absorb them into the bloodstream in a monosaccharide form. So if you're eating disaccharides, like, did anybody have milk this morning or a milk-based product? So like cheese or yogurt, okay, or a smoothie that had some kind of milk in it. Okay, you consumed something called lactose. Lactose is a disaccharide. Lactose is actually a sugar. Milk might not taste sweet to you, but there are natural sugars in it. And your body cannot absorb lactose. So people that are lactose intolerant, consuming lactose really hurts them because they lack the enzymes and the microbes that naturally break that up in your gut. They break it down from a disaccharide to 2 monosaccharides. Okay? Taking lactose pills will actually give you those enzymes that will allow you to digest it. Now, the most interesting one here is the polysaccharide. So plants and animals form polysaccharides. Okay, the next page of your iBook talks about complex carbohydrates. So complex carbohydrates are really interesting, and this is where we get the vast majority of our energy. Okay, human beings are omnivores, and as such, we have the ability to, digest a certain type of plant matter. There is some plant matter out there that we cannot digest. Okay, and when we absorb these large molecules because polysaccharides are huge, huge, huge chains, and I mean huge microscopically here, chains of glucose. And as we consume these and we chew our food and we swallow it, it gets broken down in our stomach into those monosaccharides and we absorb them into our blood. Okay? While that's circulating in the blood, the cells will absorb a lot of those sugars, those monosaccharides. And they need them to undergo cellular respiration, which we talked about last year. Okay, that's our ability to actually take sugar and turn it into energy. Okay? We are only capable of the two types of complex carbohydrates, we are only capable of absorbing and digesting starch. Starch is a huge amount of energy. All the white stuff in a potato, that is starch. Okay? Starch is a storage form of energy for plants. The other complex carbohydrate that you and I cannot digest is cellulose. Cellulose is what makes up the cell walls of plants. Okay, so when plants are long gone, last year we looked at cork under the microscope, or we saw an image of it and it looked like a bunch of little prison cells. Okay, that is the actual cellulose that we're still seeing long after the plant is dead. Okay, so cellulose is not the easiest thing to digest. In fact, only certain animals, herbivores, are able to digest cellulose. Okay, so they can actually get energy from that. We use cellulose, but not for an energy source. Okay, when we talk about fiber, we're gonna come back to cellulose and its importance to us. But starch here is a huge, huge, huge molecule. So if we talk about polysaccharides, so assume that this chain of what looks like pearls here, or circles really, are all glucose, 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 glucose. As that goes into my system, I cannot absorb this. It's way too big. So the body's really good at chopping off one of these glucoses at a time. It's like boom, 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 boom. And I absorb those. Okay? When glucose is circulating in the human body, it cannot stay in the bloodstream for very long. Glucose will pass through the bloodstream and it'll make its way to the human liver. And as we're going to learn this year, your liver is one of the busiest organs in the human body because it is involved with at least 4, if not more, different systems within the body. And its involvement in digestion for glucose, okay, it's a storage center for glucose. And if that glucose is not used up within about 24 hours, your body transforms it into a molecule, okay, known as glycogen. Glycogen is a polysaccharide found in animals. We take it, and this seems really counterintuitive because we consume these large starch molecules that we then break down into individual monosaccharides to absorb, and then we store them and we make another polysaccharide. We make something called glycogen. So we get these long, long chains of starch, we break them down, we absorb the individual glucose molecules, and then they sit around in the body in the form of glycogen. We make a polysaccharide. And after 24 hours, if that polysaccharide has not been used up, it gets transformed into what? It gets transformed into fat. Okay, we're going to talk about fatty acids later. Okay? But carbohydrates are our main source of energy. And that's simply because it's a heck of a lot easier to break down a 6-carbon molecule than it is to break down the much larger fatty acids and much larger proteins, which we will see.